Well, good evening, y'all. It is Friday, May 17th, 2024. And honestly, I've been trying to do a live stream or even put up some videos this week, but it just hasn't happened because Wednesday I hit 500 subscribers, which for some it don't sound like a whole lot, but for me that's that is awesome. That is awesome. The channel is growing, and I appreciate everyone. As of today, I have 501 subscribers, and that's awesome, man. It makes me feel good because I don't do this professionally. I don't do this YouTube to make money or anything else. Daniel Berry Sports. I can always count on you to show up. Happy Friday, buddy. Happy Friday. But yeah, like I said, I finally hit broke the 500 mark. Wednesday, I hit 500 subscribers, and yesterday I picked up another one, so I have 501. And I do this as a hobby. Um, Basically, if any of you are old enough to remember the old home movies, that's the way I kind of look at this. And everything I do around here is just the way I live my life. Just things I have to do. And I try to find stuff that's interesting. I know a lot of it isn't, but again, a lot of it is too. Hey, if an idiot like me can do this stuff, there's no reason in the world why 90% of you out there can't do it. Just try it, whatever it is, whatever interests you, give it a shot. Try it. See if you can do it. I mean, it never hurts to try. You know what really hurts is never trying. So yeah, Dr. Remy, how you doing? Welcome. I was just saying, came out here to I don't know about this fan here. Just came here. I finally broke 500, and I appreciate y'all subscribing. Thank you. If it weren't for you guys, yeah, obviously I wouldn't have any subscribers. So I appreciate it. Mm. Yeah, it's a Friday evening. The wife's at work, so I'm left unsupervised to my own devices, and instead of being in bed watching TV. I was going to say the old boob tube. Um, yeah, I've been trying to get out here all week and just do a little bit of a thank you video, maybe a live thank you to everyone. I really appreciate all my subscribers. Thank you so much. Um, Again, uh, for for somebody like me doing this, it's awesome. But I'm making sure I didn't step on my. I don't know why the light's on. I'm hoping you all can hear me. When I checked the audio, it said the mic was working. So I'm hoping. Oh, Dr. Remy, yes, thank you. I appreciate you subscribing. Thank you. That is awesome. I really do appreciate it. And I hope you find something interesting in all the almost 300 videos that I have here. I do have them categorized. If you go to the playlist, you'll find things, woodworking, cast iron, couple of engine builds, automotive, camping, the camper. You find all sorts of stuff. That's why I say I treat this kind of like the old home movies. I just kind of video everything that goes on in my life, and this is just regular stuff that I do on a regular basis. Been that way ever since I was a kid. My folks did the same thing. This is what happens when you grow up and you don't have enough money to pay the professionals to do something right for you. You just go ahead and give it a shot. Try it yourself and learn from your mistakes. That's another thing I tell everyone about my videos. I might not be able to teach you how to do something the right way, but I damn sure can teach you how not to do it. Just by watching me. But again, I'm actually been really excited this whole week that I broke 500 subscribers. To me, that's a big deal. The first video I ever made for YouTube, it was it was it, it was a lark, and I did it for fun. Matter of fact, the first few of my several videos was about cast iron. Since you mentioned it, Dr. Remy, and cooking in them. Um, and I've learned so much too since those videos. Uh, and a lot of it is too. I was a lot of them. I was pretty much three sheets to the wind because I never thought anyone would ever watch them. Um, and with that being said, I have one up that's got over 30,000 views, and in my entire life, and I'm 58. Well, I'll be 58 in July. I don't think I've physically met over 30,000 people. So that was wild. But yeah, Dr. Remy, you want to learn about cast iron? Well, it's just you and me on here right now, buddy. Ask away. Or if you look up, here on the comment section, you'll see something that starred. It says StreamYard. If you want to hop on, it's an open invitation. If you feel like getting online here and talking face to face, that's fine. I have no problem. It's an open invitation. You can hop right on. If not, just any questions. Something simple. If you want anything that's on your mind, or a video you want to know about. If I can't answer it right now, I will do some research and maybe make a video for any questions you want. But yeah, you're more than welcome. Anybody hops on here. I usually have a link right up top that's starred, and all you have to do is click on that, and you can hop right into the studio with me, and we can chat. Because I think the most people I've had on a live stream watching me at one time was 17. I think that's my record. I could probably get more if I was to give a little bit of warning that I was going to have a live stream. Most of the time, I just pop on when I have a chance to. Usually, it's on the weekends, either Saturday or Sunday. How do you cure? You mean season it? Actually, yeah, I have several videos up about seasoning a frying pan. Um, we'll go over the key points. Biggest thing, and it doesn't matter if it's a brand new one that's rough or an old classic one that has a smooth inside cooking surfaces. The biggest thing is when you get ready to season a pan. Because here's the biggest thing I've seen with everyone: they put too much oil on it. One of the biggest things is when you oil it for the seasoning, for the initial seasoning. When you oil a cast iron pan for the initial seasoning, you wipe the oil all over it, and then you wipe it off like you made a mistake and you did not want any of that oil on there. And you'll look at me and you'll think in your mind, well, I can't even feel the oil on it. That's the way you want it to be. All right, keep that in mind. And as for what oil you want to use, honestly, to me, it doesn't matter. My dad used bacon fat to season pans. My mom, and he used butter as well. Butter doesn't work as well. A lot of people recommend grapeseed oil, um, buzzy wax, bee wax oil mixture. There's all sorts of stuff out there. Basically, use what you like. I'm not a big fan of the seed oils, um, but uh, for me, and because of the way I use my pans too, each oil has a different smoke point temperature. Okay. And when you're seasoning a pan or anything cast iron, what you want to do is you want to turn that oil into a polymer. And the way to do that is to heat it either for a very long time below its smoking point or for about an hour at or slightly above its smoking point. And there, online, each oil that you can think of using, from, Crisco, uh, olive oils, and the different type of olive oil. There is a chart that gives you the smoke point of those oils. Okay, with that out of the way, what I like to do, and if you got okay, you found some at yard sales. Honestly, you have to be careful with some of these. I've run into it myself. Some of these old cast iron pans were used to melt lead. You really, really, yeah, you can use peanut oil, any oil you want, really, really. Like I said, you can use any oil you want. Um, I prefer a high smoke point, high temperature. I prefer something that has a smoke point of at least 400 degrees or above. Some of these seed oils actually have a smoke point at 480. Um, my oven doesn't get that hot, but there are ways around that. You just leave them in there longer. Crisco is great. My mom actually did love Crisco, and so do a lot of my other family members. And Crisco works great. For me, the smoke point on that is just a little bit lower than what I like for my personal use, because if you're just using them on your stovetop and in the oven, Crisco is fine. Crisco is the base go to. A lot of people use Crisco. That is an awesome choice. Again, I like something a little bit higher smoke point because I use mine over the open flames as well on a regular basis. Um, but yeah, you can go to Walmart. You can go to, I think, Home Depot and Lowe's also. They have lead test kits specifically for cast iron pans. They're very easy. It's kind of like a little strip that you use to test your, yeah, if you have a pool, it's the same idea. And yeah, check them for lead. I've run into it an awful lot. A lot of old pans were used to melt lead, and lead is very hard to get rid of out of a cast iron pan. Now, a lot of cast iron experts are going to fry me and flay me for saying this, but the easiest way I can explain it is that cast iron is porous. That's not technically true, but as far as a practical example goes, cast iron's porous. All right, so lead, oils, everything will get into the lead, and it's very hard. Get into the cast iron, and it's very hard to get rid of. So yeah, one you want to. Yeah, California. Yeah, I don't doubt it. I was stationed out there for a while too. But anyway, yeah, with these with the pans, especially used ones, there are several ways to clean them. And before you even think about seasoning them, the best thing to do is to strip them. Well, test for lead, and if they pass the lead test, then I really like to strip them back down to bare metal. And there are several ways to do it. You can do a lye bath, um, and you could do a what they call an electrolysis. And electrolysis, I'll put it to you this way: electrolysis is good for heavy rust and very light buildup of carbonization and basically gunk. Your lye bath is good for heavy gunk and carbon buildup and light to medium rust. Those are 2 ways you can clean them. Now, a simple way for doing just 1 or 2 pans: yellow top, easy off oven cleaner. You spray the pan down heavily, liberally, put it in a black plastic trash bag, and put it somewhere warm or in the sun for about 3 days to a week. Okay, and then when you pull it out, you just wash it, and you can use soap. Wash it, scrub it. It should clean up, repeat as necessary. It should strip it right down till the metal is gray or silver. Okay, now the problem is when you dry them on any bare cast iron, they have a tendency to flash rust. And I have seen that happen. As soon as that water is drying off of it, the rust comes right there with it. As I've watched a drop of water evaporate from the cast iron, and as it is, cast iron gets rust on it. Best way to do it is to keep that from happening is once you washed it and got it all clean, uh, just put a little bit of oil on either paper towel or whatever cloth you're using to dry it with, and just add a little bit of oil to that as it's still wet and you're drying it. Then throw it on the stove or even in the oven about 200 degrees and let all the water evaporate from it. And then to season it, like I said, your choice of oil, Crisco, lard. Wipe it on and then wipe it off as quick as you can and as much as you can, like you pretend like you didn't mean to do it. And Colleen, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. Um, and then put it in the preheated oven at whatever temperature, whatever the smoke point is. Let's say the smoke point is at 400. I usually set my oven for 425 because each oven fluctuates. I let it preheat. I put the pan in upside down. In case there is too much oil, it won't make the splotchiness on the bottom. You'll have little bumps that can be taken care of. But if you wiped it off enough, you shouldn't have that problem. And I'll put it in the oven for an hour at about 425. And then after an hour, I will turn the oven off and let the pan and the oven cool down enough so I can touch it without burning myself. That usually takes about another 45 minutes to an hour, depending on your oven. I have an old oven. It heats up and slow and it cools down friggin' quick. But I do that 3 times. Here's another thing to keep in mind. During this preliminary and initial seasoning, if your pan is gray or silver, it will turn a bronze color. That is natural. It is supposed to. And I usually repeat the process 3 times and it's good to cook with. You can do it as many times as you want. It won't hurt the pan. You will not get that black. Usually you will not get that nice black color. It takes time. Eventually you'll get it just by using it, but don't worry if it turns a bronze color. That is not rust. That's it's supposed to do that. It will happen. Not all of them do, but most of them. Can you grind the rust off? I will tell you what, even though I have videos about grinding cast iron, here's what you have to watch out for. The ones that I have ground, sanded, and everything, they're all brand new. They're all $20, $25 pans. They're not worth a whole lot of money. They're great users. They work great. But there are also so many of them out there, it doesn't matter. What you have to watch out for is the classic ones. If you grind them or sand them, They might work great, but you run the risk of turning a potential $300 cast iron pan into a $3 cast iron pan. They lose their monetary value. Um, and you might say, well, it's so rusted and everything. How could I hurt the monetary value? It's not worth anything if it's rusty. Trust me, it is. On the classic ones, depending what they are, yeah, they'll be worth more money rusty than they are ground down, clean, shiny, and looking good, because you can always see the grind marks on them. And seeing as none of the big, the old cast iron makers like Lodge, Wagner, BSR, for starters, are around, or well, Lodge is still around, but the others, they none of them actually mill or grind their finished product anymore. The old classic ones that are smooth, they're worth a lot of money. You don't want to mess with those. Um, well, hey, yeah. Again, I have lots of videos of my cast iron pans up, using them, cleaning them, cooking with them, and yeah, like I said, even though I'm against grinding and sanding the old ones, I have no issue with doing it to the new ones, and I have videos showing how. I have several videos showing several different methods on how to smooth them out. But yeah, give me a second. I'll be right back. Hang tight. All right, Dr. Remy, what I have here are two large pans. This one here is a newer one. I think it's, oh God, time escapes me, but this is one of the newer ones. It's probably about 10, 12 years old, somewhere in that area. This one here is one out of two that my dad bought. It's a three little indents. It's a 3-notch Lodge. They're both Lodge pans. This one here is 1940s vintage. Okay. Yeah, and I'm sorry, it's got a little bit where something. This one here I use on my wood stove and everything, and yeah, they're I got to clean them up a little bit more, but they're fine. Okay, and this has actually turned into one of my favorite pans. This was one that had that rough bottom to it, and I ground it and sanded it down, and it's just as smooth as its older compatriot here. And there's just a couple of them. Again, I'm not a collector, and I'm not into show pieces. I'm into using the damn things. But anyway, and if you also check out a few of my other videos, you'll see where I grabbed these from. It's from the wife's armory. But if you excuse me for a second, I'm going to put these back. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm back. Yeah, matter of fact, that lodge I just showed you, I got that from Amazon. Oh no, actually, the one I showed you, no, that was a gift. That was a gift that somebody gave me. But I think I have bought for other people 6 that are off of Amazon, 6 or 7 that are off of Amazon. And yes, I do have a few videos of those. Um, all right, one of the things that always sticks. What kind of pan do you have? Um, like I said, these were the new lodges. They all came from Amazon, and it's a great. I'll tell you this much: those pans, for what you pay for them, for $25, they're awesome pans. You can't beat it. Um, I do not like the bumpy surface. That's my biggest problem. Honestly, once you get them seasoned properly, and it takes some time, it really does. But once you get them seasoned properly, they work just as well as the smooth ones. Mm, uh, this is just a personal preference. I rather have the bottom smooth, and I'm not worried about ruining the monetary value of a $25 pan that are made, that they're still making, and they're cranking out tens of thousands of them per year. These aren't like the Smithies where they make a few hundred, maybe 1,000 or so. They're not, the $300 high dollar, $300 pans, or anything. These are $25 lodges. Excellent pan, very good pan. I just don't like the finish on them. Oh, you bought one from Walmart? That's probably an Ozark Mountain one. If it is now Lodge used to make those for Walmart, and then they went to an overseas maker. And a lot of people will say, "Hey, you know, China, Chinesium, or Taiwan, where the hell do you think cast iron came from? Their walks and everything. Asians have been making them for years. Matter of fact, I have a set of Asian-made cast iron out in my shed, and I have a couple I use in the camper. As far as worth any money, no. Even brand new, uh, they're probably not worth the $3 that somebody paid for them 50 years ago. But as far as usability and cooking, they're great. There's absolutely nothing wrong with them. Absolutely nothing wrong with them. They are great. All this bull crap about, well, they used old pig iron and this, that, and the other thing in them. That has been disproven so often and so many times. It's now a running joke. There's absolutely nothing wrong with them. They're great. They're about the same quality. Some are even better, if you ask me, than the new lodges. But yeah. Now my question is yours the cooking surface inside? Are they smooth, or were they, rough and bumpy, kind of like either a bed liner or that grip tape that you see on stairways and pools and sidewalks? And the other thing you have to watch out for, if you bought it at Walmart recently, and when I say recently, within the last 10, 12 years, well, honestly, like I said, that Chinese stuff with the lead, that has been proven to be a myth. Um, it really has. Ooh, excuse me. But what I was getting to is, if you bought something from Walmart, a cast iron pan, within the last 10 or 12 years or so, Most likely, it was already black. It was pre-seasoned. Am I right by saying that? Is that how yours was? And well, the reason why I'm asking is, all right, it's kind of rough. I got you. And if it was already pre-seasoned, um, you have to understand this was done, uh, kind of like the Model A Fords was done on a assembly line, and it was done quick. And it's a great start, but every single one that I know of, and I've heard, and I belong to a few, cast iron groups, the same thing always happens. That initial preseason from the factory, it will flake off. It's not going to hurt anything, but that's where you get the black specks in your food, and that's when you start seeing the little shiny bits, and it's like, why is it flaking off? Well, it's because it goes through en masse, and it goes through quick. It ain't gonna hurt anything, and it can be fixed. You don't really even over time, you don't really have to strip it, but I still recommend stripping it with Easy Off and starting over and doing it with the oil that you want to use. If you want to do it with Crisco, because here's the thing: your initial seasoning, the first time this pan has ever been seasoned, whether it be brand new or whether you've stripped it down to the bare metal, this is where you want to set your base. This is where you want to make sure you get your good base seasoning. You build up from there. And what I like to suggest is, hey, if you want to season it with Crisco, don't try to season a pan that's already been seasoned with olive oil or with grapeseed oil and try to season it with Crisco or vegetable oil or bacon fat, you know, over the initial seasoning. Strip the initial seasoning off. If you're having trouble with the initial seasoning anyway and it's flaking off, go ahead, strip it off. Start over with the oil you want to use. Now, once that's said, once you get your initial seasoning done, yeah, you can cook with any oil you want. If you season, do the initial seasoning with Crisco, that doesn't mean you always have to use Crisco for that pan. You once you get that Crisco polymerized and you get it seasoned, once that's done, you can use olive oil, you can use peanut oil, you can use bacon fat, you can use butter, you can use whatever you want in that pan to cook with. Matter of fact, when you go to hang it up on the wall, if you want to lightly oil it, let's say you seasoned it with Crisco and you want to put it up on the wall after it's clean, and you're like, oh, I'm out of Crisco. I can't oil. Yes, you can. You can put some vegetable oil if it's sitting right there and it's handy. You can wipe a little bit of vegetable oil on it. Boom, wipe it off. Just a light coat. Hang it up on the wall. Put it under your sink. Wherever you store your stuff, you're not going to hurt it. Uh, and with a good initial seasoning, honest to God, I have pans in there that have not been re-seasoned. They were seasoned once. Actually, they're old enough. They were seasoned twice with the initial season, but they haven't been re-seasoned in 20 to 30 years. They still have the same season, the initial seasoning that my folks did. The only time you really should need to re-season a pan is if something happens to it. If you bought used ones. If you strip them down and get all the previous seasoning off of it, all right, well, then you're re-seasoning them. If you leave them on a burner and you burn the seasoning too bad, okay, then it's a good idea to re-season it. And also, Oh, there's a few other things, but if you don't mess up the initial seasoning, every time you cook with it, it's going to get better and better and better. It's going to build up a seasoning to it, but it's building on a polymer. Now, if your olive oil, me personally, I don't care for seasoning a pan with olive oil. I to me, it always seemed to bring out the tinny flavor of the cast iron, no matter what. And it's a low temperature smoke point. So yeah, cooking with olive oil, I have no problem. But again, let me get back to what I was saying too. Once you season the pan properly, this is why you have to go above the smoke point. You want to uh, physically change that oil from an oil to a polymer. It will turn hard as glass. Okay, and this is where you get your nonstick from. With that being said, a cast iron pan will never be as nonstick as a brand new Teflon pan. Okay, a lot of it has to do with heat, the way you cook, and everything. It's a little bit of a learning curve. Uh, uh, I was going to say a Teflon pan. You can throw an egg in there. You can throw meat in there without any oil or butter or anything. Even a well seasoned cast iron pan that feels like glass with your fingers and everything, you heat that up and you throw something in it, it's going to stick. Okay, cast iron 99.9% of the time is going to need a little bit of oil, butter, even a little spray of Pam. The better that it's seasoned, the less oil and everything you'll need. Okay, uh, but yeah, don't ever expect a cast iron pan to be exactly as non-stick as a Teflon pan. It's not it's just not gonna. Um, they will be close, and you can fool a lot of people into thinking that they are just as non-stick, but really they're not. Oh, when you're seasoning them, yes, they go in the oven. You can, yeah, a lot of people can and have seasoned them on the stovetop. I just found that it's a lot more even, a lot easier, and a lot better to do it in the oven. And with that being said, especially if you're going to use Crisco and everything, it is going to smoke your house because in order to season it properly, you have to go above the smoke point of what if of Crisco, if you're going to use Crisco, of whatever oil, lard, whatever you're using, you have to bring the temperature above the smoke point. So naturally, that means that pan is going to smoke. And God, yeah, it will smoke up your house. You might not, see the smoke, but you're going to smell it. It's going to make your eyes burn. That's why a lot of people have decided that, ooh, it stinks, so I'm not going to bring it above the smoke point. And that's how they end up with, the pan looks nice, but everything's sticky because they never get the oil to the point where it will polymerize and adhere to the cast iron. All they did was they got really hot oil soaking into the micropores of the cast iron. And that's why their seasoning flakes off. That's why everything still sticks. That's why they get that little gummy feeling, you know, on their pans. Um, that's the thing. But like I said, seriously, I've covered a lot of this uh, in my videos too. Um, if you want to see practical hands-on with explanations instead of just me trying to talk you through it, go to my playlist on my channel. And if you go to the playlist, I will have I have all my videos categorized. That's what I was looking for. Into different things. Cast iron, care and maintenance, cooking, woodworking, automotive, engine builds, camping, and then various other things. But that way, there you don't have to look. If you see a cast iron video on my regular part of the channel where it shows videos, and you're looking for the second one in the series or anything, if you go to the playlist, they're all right there in order about that subject. And a lot of this too, like I said, I've learned myself some things that I really didn't know. And my God, my folks were born in the early 1900s. I'm the youngest out of 16, and I grew up using cast iron. That's what we had. So I didn't know any better. It's what I tell people. How come you love cast iron? Well, I grew up using it. That's what I learned to cook with. I just don't know any better. And so, yeah, 50 years later, I'm still using it. As a matter of fact, you saw uh, two of those. Well, I showed you one of those old lodge pans. That was my father's. It was handed to me. I got another one just like it. It's brother that's in there. He bought two at the same time. Um, I have three Wagners that my mother bought, in 19, I believe it was 1965. It was about a year before I was born. And I have those. These, to me, those are heirlooms. They're very sentimental values because those are the ones I learned to cook with. Those are the ones I used as a kid. Those are ones that were my folks, cooked many a meal in. Both of them. My dad, cooking breakfast. My mom and everything. Those were what was on the stove, and they used them. They used them to feed 16 freaking kids, and I'm using them now. Which I think is kind of cool. Um, and here's the funny thing about cast iron too. Told you my dad bought two pans in the 1940s. Um, and they both have their own characteristics and idiosyncrasies. One of them hates hates to be used on my electric range that I have in the house. Uh, I have no problem with it on the grill, over an open fire, or on my wood stove. It loves it. All right, but it hates that electric range. Its counterpart, its twin, loves the electric range, has no problem with it, has no problem with the grill. Does not do well on my wood stove, and really does not care for just being thrown over the coals on an open fire. I mean, are they usable, and how bad is the difference? It's noticeable to me because I'm familiar with them. Um, a lot of other people that would, you know, try using the one that likes the wood stove and tries to use it on the electric range, they would probably think it was something that they did wrong. It's not. It's the personality and the characteristic of the pan. It needs a little bit, just a little bit more work and worrying over, so things don't burn, stick, or screw up. And a lot of my pans are like that. They each have their own little personality, their little likes and dislikes, and everything else. Cast iron is kind of like that, which I kind of find intriguing, you know. But yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry, I was babbling on about that. You still around listening to me? Because I know we lost somebody that was watching me, and I was hoping it wasn't you, sir. But anyway, uh, yeah, I don't know. I think Colleen was on here too, and I really, Colleen, thank you so much for the congratulations. And yeah, I don't mean to ignore you, but I got into the conversation and got into answering some questions for Dr. Remy here, and trying to help him out the best I can. And I'm not an expert at anything. Um, I just pass on the knowledge I've learned from usually experience. And especially with cast iron, there's more than one way to do things, because I season mine in the oven. Doesn't make that 100% the right way to do it. And if you season yours or somebody else seasons theirs um, on the stove top, doesn't mean that they're wrong. Both ways are perfectly valid. Either way has their pros and cons. I just find it easier and more. Oh, I'm having a brain fart right now. More consistent, more consistent seasoning over the whole pan, and easier to control the heat in the oven. Matter of fact, I know people that will tell you straight up, you don't even have to do an initial seasoning, you just cook in it. And they're right too. Eventually, it will build up a seasoning, a good seasoning too. That's if you want to wait a year. It takes longer. A year might be an exaggeration, but it takes a little longer. Um, Another thing to keep in mind, especially with a freshly seasoned pan, don't cook a whole lot of anything acidic in it. Don't make your spaghetti sauce in it. Oh, you're not interrupting my stream. This is my stream. You happen to be the star of it right now, Dr. Remy. You're doing fine. This is absolutely fine. It keeps me babbling about at least one subject. Um, but yeah, warning, especially with an initial seasoning, try to stay away from anything acidic. Don't cook with wine. Don't cook with tomatoes, or anything like that. For at least even if you use it every single day for at least a couple months, let that seasoning from just using it build up. Make sure you get a good solid seasoning on it, because the acid from that will eat through even a very good initial seasoning if it's brand new. Um, After a little while, though, that'll be fine. I have an old BSR uh, chicken fryer. It's very deep. That is my regular Taco Tuesday cooker, and that is one I also make homemade spaghetti sauce in too. It has, hmm, it has. That's one of the ones that has 30 years of seasoning already on it. It's going to take it forever to eat through. It is possible. My wife has tried. Because here is the other thing: if you do cook something acidic in it, go ahead, serve everyone that you need to serve, eat your dinner. But as soon as you're done, clean it out and at least wipe all, put some hot water in it and wipe out all that acidic juices that are left in it. Um, yeah, don't let it sit overnight. Um, Even my BSR and a couple of my Wagners. Matter of fact, one of the Wagners was left outside in the elements over the winter for almost 6 months. And this thing has got such a good seasoning on it. It had a little bit of surface rust on the handle. The rest of it was fine. It was still black. Never bothered it. Um, Matter of fact, same pan recently got used out in the shed. I didn't use it, so I was looking for it. I didn't know where it went. I found it 2 weeks. For 2 weeks, it had water sitting in it. The water was almost evaporated. Again, absolutely no rust. That's what a good seasoning will do. Oh, the temperature in the oven, Dr. Remy, for the temperature you use in the oven to season it depends on what oil you're using. That's why I said there is a scale, there is a list that's online. You can check it out. Look for the smoke point. If you're going to use Crisco, off the top of my head, I'm not sure what the temperature is. But let's say, for example, the smoke point of Crisco is 425. Depending on your oven, you want to set it usually around, a little bit above 425. You leave it in there for an hour, turn the heat off, don't pull the pan out, let the pan and the oven cool down together. Pull your pan out, check it, and then repeat. Oil it, wipe it off, put it back in the preheated oven. And no, don't be afraid of spaghetti sauce and cast iron once you get a good seasoning on it. And again, that also depends on how often you use your pan. Um, if you do an initial seasoning on your pan, hang it up, and use it twice a year, well, then, yeah, it's going to take you 3 or 4 years before I would recommend uh, cooking anything acidic in it. However, if you use it 4 or 5 times a week and you maintain it and everything, yeah, I'd say in about a month it would. You go ahead, cook spaghetti sauce in it. Make whatever you want in it. It all depends on how you use it. But yeah, like I said, I have a vintage BSR. Um, it's not overly old, and I was told what year it was, but I have so many of them. I can't remember if it's a 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. I don't believe it was 60s. I think it was before 1960. But all I know is it's been around. It's been around longer than I have. So it's got to be at least 60 years old, if not older. And the last time that thing was seasoned has got to be in the 70s. And so it's got a good seasoning on it. Again, everyone that thinks you have to season your pan every couple years, excuse me, or some even think that they have to re-season it or season it after every use, i.e., oil it, throw it in the oven, turn the temperature up to 450 degrees, and leave it in there for an hour after every use. No, you do that once, okay? Actually, 3 times, one right after the other. That's the minimum I like to do. Some people tell you once, some people tell you do it 10 times. I found that doing it 3 times in a row, and again, I have a video explaining the whole process. I consider that the initial seasoning. Everything after that you cook, as long as you don't overheat it and burn the seasoning off, or or get in there with a with Comet and scrub the seasoning off. As long as you don't do that, honestly, once you get the initial seasoning on there, maybe once every 20 years, 30 years. I mean, at my age, the next time I have to season one of these pans, if I don't screw it up or damage it somehow, it's not going to be me. It's going to be my kids or my grandkids that are going to have to re-season it. Not me. I'll never have to touch the damn things again. I say that. That's if somebody that knows what they're cooking or knows how to cook and use the cast iron to do it. I've actually had to re-season some of these pans because they were left on a hot burner empty. Somebody did use Comet and scrubbed it down to the bare metal. But yeah, discounting that, if nobody does something like that, honestly, once you get the initial seasoning on, that's depending on how old you are, that could be a twice in a lifetime deal. Nothing to worry about. So I think that covered some of it. Like I said, my videos go into a little bit more depth on that. So check them out. I don't know if they're that entertaining, but the information is there. The information is there, and it's shown in a practical way. And yes, another thing is my cousin Michael. He has his own cooking channel, Mike's Cooking Studio, and he has challenged me to a cook-off, and I just haven't had time. I promised him I would do it last week. I just haven't had time. So, Mike, if you check out this, I'm sorry, buddy. I just haven't had time to do it. I will get to it. Because the recipe he sent me too looks really good, and he already made it, and he made it in a cast iron pan that I sent up to him, and one that I smoothed out and seasoned for him, and that's all on video as well. But and I think he was happy with it. This is his first bare real cast iron pan. He had another one that was coated, and they do make coated cast iron pans, ceramic coating, and those they're expensive. Those ones are high dollar, and I have no problem with that. I just, I don't know. I grew up with just your plain old cast iron, and if I wanted something ceramic to cook in, I'd just, basically go to a building that's being demolished and grab a commode. I mean, what the fuck? That's ceramic. But so anyway, yeah, no, it's Friday night. My God, it's 8:14. Excuse me. I'm old. I'm usually in bed by now. Even when I'm especially when I'm unsupervised. But I was just so excited, and again, I want to thank everyone for subscribing and sticking with me. And Dr. Remy, thank you for subscribing. I do appreciate it. And on any of the videos, even my old ones, hey, you have a question or a comment? Put it up there. Put it up there. I do check them. I do check them regularly. Like I said, this is a very small channel. Not a whole lot of people, and I'm so excited and so happy to get 500 subscribers. Again, when I started this, it was just out of a lark. just for fun, matter of fact, um, all my videos are taken off off a phone. This happens to be an Android S23. The one I had before was a S10, and the one I started with was an S3. Um, I do have a video camera, but I let my nephew and niece play with it. When I first got it, they lost the directions, and I can't figure out how to work the damn thing. So I just stuck with my phone. What I'm on right now is my nephew did give me um, his 9-year-old laptop. And seeing as basically all I use it for is these live streams and a little bit of editing, it works fine. He's a big gamer, so this was a pretty powerful laptop as far as that goes for what I want to do. Gaming and videos are not too far apart for what you need for operating systems and everything. So this has worked out pretty good. Um, so yeah, I'm definitely not a professional YouTuber or videographer or anything. I just get on here and I'm just me. I don't try to be anything other than the dumbass truck driver making home videos. That's it. Oh, and by the way, um, I'll be right back because I need another beverage. And speaking of beverages, okay, to get into the 21st century here and everything, um, this beverage that I'm drinking is not a beer because it identifies as a wheat smoothie with some hops. So, no, I'm not drinking beer. I'm having a wheat and hops smoothie. It's, kind of like my M1911 and my AK-47. Um, they identify as cordless hole punchers. Okay, they're not weapons or anything. They're just cordless hole punchers. They're a tool. Oh, which unfortunately, um, I lost all of my cordless hole punches in a tragic boating accident. Um, Out at sea. Well, actually, it was in the Chesapeake Bay. My ex-father-in-law is a charter boat captain, and you know, in case anyone's interested in checking it out, he has it on his captain's log um, during the storm when we were out on his boat where everything was lost. Unfortunately, his insurance didn't cover the loss. I didn't have insurance on him, but such is life. I'll get over it. It's a sad thing. Sad, sad, sad thing. And I'm still having trouble accepting it. That's why I don't always talk about them in the past tense. I'm still in denial. But Oh, and with YouTube, yeah, you won't see. Well, one, because I don't have them anymore, and two, yeah, I don't need that type of attention on the YouTube channel. I don't need that. Not that I'm a tinfoil hat wearer type person, but I do have a decent idea how the government works, and I don't want to. I just don't want the trouble. I mean, and a lot of things I talk about too is everyone. You trust me, you're all gonna go through the same thing. I remember as a young man, as a kid, and everything, I listened to all these stories from my elders about quote unquote the good old days, even when they were the bad old days. They would reminisce about what they used to do, what they used to get away with. Uh, and thinking back, yeah, a lot of the laws that they passed were because of these people and what they used to do. And it's the same thing with me. As I'm getting older, I'm kind of like, hey, well, back in my day, we used to do this and we never thought anything about it because it was okay. You can't do that anymore. Very simple thing. Riding in the back of a pickup truck without a seatbelt at 45, 50 miles an hour and being no older than 8, 10, 12 years old. You know, there was no law against that. So we did it. Nobody thought anything about it. You were told, hang on, don't fall out. And of course, being one of 16 kids, my folks weren't overly concerned about it because they're kind of like, look, we got enough. Nobody's going to friggin' notice that one's missing. And even if they are, we made you in the first place. We'll make another one that looks just like you. Nobody's going to know. You know, I think they were kind of surprised that we all survived, which, considering how they were the years that they were born in, early 1900s, before 1920, that was actually kind of uncommon to have. Well, not have 16, but you might have 7, 8, 12, 14, 16 kids, but it wasn't that common to have all of them survive into adulthood. The mortality rate for children at the end of the 19th century to the beginning of the 20th century was still kind of high. It really was. So, um, I think my folks' kids was really, I think they were part of the first generation where the mortality rate for children wasn't that high, and they were kind of surprised that we all survived. Um, Especially with the stupid shit we did. If we didn't end up unaliving ourselves by our own actions, um, I'm pretty sure that there were there were several times. I'm pretty sure that my folks, that thought went through their mind was, you know what, we have enough. If I was just to strangle this one, nobody would notice. But yeah, a trans beer, yes, sir. We can put it that way. Yep. Yep. It does not identify as a beer. It identifies as a wheat and barley, wheat, barley, and hops smoothie. Yep. What was that? Yep. it was just kind of left out a little bit too long and fermented. Oh, speaking of which, that is something that this fall I will probably start making some videos about. I actually make my own adult beverages as well, and that is a process. And usually it is such a process that I have neglected to video it. But I think maybe this fall, um, I will try that. One of the biggest things with making your own uh, wheat smoothie from scratch is cleanliness. Everything has got to be. Look, you think an operating room or a NASA white room is clean? No, no, everything is sterilized. Because I've been doing it for a while, and no, I make small batches. You know, because I think the most I make at one time is maybe 15 gallons. Which back in the day, me and my brother-in-law could go through in a night. But there were also craft beers or wheat smoothies. It's yeah, it's not this domestic weasel piss that they sell at the stores that I'm imbibing in right now. I like a very heavy, dark, full flavored uh, wheat smoothie. And I have a couple of recipes. They're mostly Irish porters. I do make a cowboy ale as well. That seems to be a big hit for those Americans here that are used to drinking weasel piss to begin with. And it is very similar, believe it or not, to Yingling. Although Yingling's a beer, a lager, it's not an ale. But I do make a nice cowboy ale is what I call it, and it has been compared to Yingling. But my favorite though the uh, is the Irish Stout. It's very heavy, very creamy, with hints of chocolate and a little, yeah. It's hard to describe, but it's so good. Oh, you probably wear your tinfoil hat. I get you. Along those lines, though. Also, this is called Sidewinder Shed. Although I'm out on the back porch, I do have video showing the shed. And in the shed, on the back of it, is what we call the man room. The man room, believe it or not, is a full 20 by 12-foot space that's an actual Faraday cage. And that's where I keep all my electronics. Um, just in case, you never know. I'm not exactly a prepper, but I do like to be somewhat prepared. So, and when I say electronics, that's all my extra stuff that I have for cars, starters, coils, alternators, distributors, as well as I used to, God, it's been years now, but I used to I used to build my own computers. I used to program them and everything. And this is a couple decades ago, but they still work. I just for emergencies. I keep them in there, um, along with a lot of my CBs, shortwave, um, all that stuff. I keep all that in the man room, and like I said, the entire man room is a Faraday cage. With that being said, I do have special little actual separate Faraday cages where I keep everything. And it's not just because I'm worried about a nuclear attack or SHTF situation. Friggin' solar flare and solar storm, just like we had last week, where you could see the northern lights as far as Texas from the northern hemisphere, and as far up as Greenland. No, not Greenland. Oh, the Aussies, the New Zealand, as far up as New Zealand. Okay, that the sun was freaking out, had a storm. We got hit by it, and that could wipe out the power grid. It didn't, from what I'm hearing. It's just cool. But back in 1980s, the whole Canadian power grid and half of the upper half of the United States lost power due to a solar flare, and there was a lot of electronical stuff back then that just quit quit working. So for natural things like that, I just keep a lot of stuff in the Faraday cage. You never know. You just never know. And again, on the automotive side too, I have extra generators and oh, I've had too many wheat smoothies. I'm drawing a blank. I'm having another brain fart. A gasifier. That's it. A gasifier. And what a gasifier is, I have a wood stove out there. I have plenty of wood. And what I can do with the gasifier is I can take all that wood while it's burning. I can reclaim the basically the wood when it burns. It puts off natural. I think it's methanol. I can reclaim that and use it to run some of my internal combustion engines, i.e., my generators. Oh, oh, yep. Dr. Remy, you might get a kick out of this story too. Again, like I said, my folks are we're old. They're gone now. But not only, excuse me for a second. Uh, I need a haircut. But my dad was born in the backwoods of Maine, 32 miles this side, American side of the Canadian border. And they grew up during the Great Depression. They grew up during Prohibition. And during Prohibition, my dad did two things. One, he lived closest to the one-room schoolhouse. So it was back then. It was his part of his chores was when school was in session, especially up in the Northwoods, Maine, was to make sure that there was firewood for the wood stove for the schoolhouse. He had to take care of the chalkboard. Well, they didn't really have chalkboards, but the erasers, all that stuff. He had to make sure that the school was set up for everyone and nice and warm and good to go when everybody got there. And My dad had his own chores at home to do. He had his traps he had to take care of in the morning, check and set. He had firewood at the house. They didn't have running water at his house. My grandfather, his father, had actually built it was a friggin' dirt floor log cabin. No running water, no electricity, no inside plumbing. So that means they had a friggin' outhouse. Okay, and that's the way it was in the early 1900s. And so anyway, that was a lot to put on a young boy at the time going to school. And he had a cousin who was kind of black sheep of the family that nobody wanted to take in. And so his cousin said to him, "Hey, can I stay in the schoolhouse up in the attic?" My dad said, "Yeah, look, you take care of the schoolhouse. Make sure there's wood, make sure it's warm and everything, and you're gone during the day." He said, "Yeah, and I won't say anything, stay up there." So that's what they did. Then they got the bright idea. They were going to make malt liquor, beer. And they did. They got a hold of a bunch of mason jars and everything. They were making it up in the attic of that one-room schoolhouse. And the problem is they got a hold of a bad bunch of seals. And the mason jars, of course, they didn't go out and buy brand new mason jars. And if you ever seen the old ones with the metal clips on the top, some of them were a little bit rusty. Now, when this stuff starts to ferment and everything, it builds up pressure. My dad's sitting in school one day, and the tops of those things started coming off. Now, up in New England and up through Maine and everything, the roofs have cedar shake on them, just cedar shingles, but there's no subroof. In other words, there's no plywood. There's nothing. Matter of fact, on those old buildings, in a nice dry summer day, you can go and look in the attic and you can see the shingles and you can see right through them. You can see daylight coming in. When a storm is coming in or it's going to rain, and I've seen it myself, you can watch that cedar swell and close up all those gaps. And if you ever seen cedar shingles, they're very thin and they're also very brittle. Well, anyway, those tops of those mason jars started coming off and they blew holes through the roof of that schoolhouse. And then, of course, all that beer come down on all the kids and the teacher and everything. And that was the end of my dad's education. Uh, he had to go and live with his uncle out in the backwoods at a logging camp for a while because back then it didn't matter what age you were. The feds were still after you for for making illegal hooch. Didn't matter what your age was. But the other thing he did too, his my uncle, his older brother, was a pilot, and they got a hold of an old Jenny biplane, World War One biplane, and they put it on floats, and they used to fly 32 miles across the border to Canada, and they would fill the floats with Canadian whiskey. And they would fly it back, land it on a field, and there'd be people waiting there to pump it out for them. Now they didn't pay for the whiskey or anything; that was all taken care of. They were just paid to go pick it up and fly it back, and they'd make 2 or 3 trips. And they did that. They did that for a little while until, like my uncle told me, those floats were more patches than they were floats. Oh, and the chemtrails. I'll be honest with you. I'm still up in the air about the chemtrails. With that being said, I do have a nephew in Massachusetts. I have over 60 nephews and nieces, but I got one that's very interesting to talk to, and you know, very very knowledgeable, very smart individual, and definitely red pilled, and on the conspiracy side too as well. And although we don't always agree, he leans a little bit more towards conspiracies than I do. But I don't discount anything he says, and I do not discount the chemtrails. Although I'm still, a little iffy on it, I don't discount it. I will tell you that much. My God, again, being in the military, uh, even back in the 80s, late 80s, I saw some stuff that would freak you out to this day, technology wise. Stuff that would be hard to believe uh, nowadays. And okay, cool. Your grandparents grew up in the Depression. Where are you from, if you don't mind me asking? Geologically, because I think. Well, anyway, whereabouts are you from, sir? Oh, and yeah, pardon me for a second. I have to let the dog in the house. All right, Oreo, go ahead. Go ahead. Is Lydia in there? Okay. Ah, yep. But anyway, like I was telling you, yeah, God, I can't think of our age difference. Obviously, it's my sister's kid. Smart, smart kid. My God, real good guy. And I can't call him a kid anymore because I don't. I'm not sure, but I think I'm only about maybe 15, 14, 15 years older than him. I'm not quite sure. So I'd probably put him in his late 30s, early 40s. So yeah, he's really not a kid, but when you grow up with somebody, my sister, his mom still thinks I'm a kid, you know. Oh, good Lord. Oh, family cat. I missed the cat part. Got crazy sick from father's homemade alcohol exploding in the basement. Oh, what was he trying to make? But it's funny too. Um, a lot of people really didn't realize back when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s that you could make beer. It was legal. You could only make a certain amount. Matter of fact, my uncle, my father's brother, that used to fly uh, up to Canada and get that Canadian whiskey. He was a brush pilot up in Maine. He had several camps and everything. And the thing was too, back then he had 5 legal stills because that's what he used to run his airplane on. And now it was heavily regulated. But out of the 5 stills, he was allowed 1 gallon per still. So 5 gallons a year for personal consumption. He couldn't sell it, but it was perfectly legal for them to drink 1 gallon. Taxes were paid. That was one of the things. That's all the government wanted was taxes. I mean, that's part of the thing here with the marijuana and the pot. They figured out how they can, collect taxes on it and everything. Oh, okay. If you had, well, I can understand the beer exploding. Like I said, I already told you a story about my dad blowing the top off of a schoolhouse, but still, that really shouldn't happen. But you know, it does. It shouldn't, but it does. But good Lord. Again, my uncle up in Maine. God, I used to love to visit him. Uh, he also used to make what's called Applejack, and that was made in oak barrels. And what he'd do is he'd gather all the deadfall, all the apples off the ground in the fall, and he'd throw them in an oak barrel, and he'd throw some raisins in there and some cinnamon, real cinnamon, not the powdered shit, and a few other spices that he never told us about. But he'd fill that barrel, and he'd just let it set over the winter. Sometime around January, February, they'd break through the ice that was on top of that barrel. And obviously, anything that wasn't frozen was pure alcohol. And they would drain it, strain it, and drain it. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's where I'm originally from, is I'm a masshole. I'm down in Virginia now, but yeah, I'm a masshole. But anyway, the Applejack. Oh, good Lord. As strong as it was, if you ever had a Long Island iced tea, which has no iced tea in it, it you if it's made properly, you don't taste any of the alcohol. You don't realize it's an alcoholic drink. That's the way his Applejack was. You would swear it was just a apple cider, and it was funny. First time I had that stuff, he had a little barn out back, and we're sitting there. He had turned the barn, one section of it, into a little bar. And oh yeah, I had a big old glass of that Applejack, and I was sitting down, and no problem. So let me have another one. He told me him and my dad were both smirking and laughing. I was like, all right, here you go. Gave me another one. I finished that and asked him for a third one. And he poured the third one. I had a couple sips of it. So I was like, man, I got to go to the bathroom. They're looking at me. They're like, okay. I felt fine till I stood up. And when I stood up, it hit me. And I never moved. I never moved. I was standing there, eyes are wide open and everything, and I did not move. But I watched that floor. It was like in slow motion. I watched that floor come straight up and hit me right in the nose and in the face. Never moved my arms or anything. There was no reason to because I wasn't moving. The floor just came straight up and hit me in the face. I was like, damn. Following year, I brought two of my friends up there. Now, I knew better this time, but introduced them to the Applejack. They did the same damn thing I did. About on the third one, they both stood up. And this time here, I was able to see what happened. They stood up, they didn't move, they went straight down. Never put their arms out, never tried to stop themselves or anything. They just went straight down. When we picked them up, asked them, they said, what happened? I said, what, is this a carnival ride or what? Because all I did was stand up, never felt myself move, fall, or anything. But they both said, I just saw the floor come up and smack me in the face. That stuff sneaks up on you. Oh, tequila. Oof. Mm. Um, two of the worst hangovers I ever had in my life. One was on, uh, mm, well, it's not technically tequila, but everybody calls it tequila. It was mezcal. That's the stuff with the worm in it. And this is when I was in the service. Being a young private at my first duty station, some of the older guys that were there, they were drinking mezcal. Now, the one thing I didn't know was that they were mixing it with Sprite, but they were giving it to me straight. And I'm like, this stuff is terrible. It's awful. Try the worm. Try the worm. And so I ate the worm and everything. And oh, that stuff, that stuff is almost like a hallucinogen when you have enough of it. But yeah, I was keeping up with them, drink for drink. I didn't know they were mixing it. I was drinking it straight. And oh yeah, what a trip that was. That was a 3-day hangover. Uh, the next one that was actually even worse, just because of the situation, was yeah, back in the yeah, yeah, back in the God, I'm losing time. Once you get to 50, anything within the same decade is close enough. But yeah, I think it was back in the 80s. It was before I actually it was before the army. It was before the army. We came down to Virginia to watch the races, and I had a friend of mine living down here. And that was my first experience with sake, high quality sake that was heated up. And ooh, we went through a whole bunch of that stuff. And this was after the races were over, and we had a flight. We had to take a flight back to Massachusetts the next morning. Oh, that was miserable. Oh my God. The altitude change. Oh, the three of us that had come down here and were flying. Oh, we were miserable. We were miserable for the next 3 or 4 days. We were miserable. I haven't touched sake since. Mm-mm, can't do it. Now, I have had mezcal since, Matter of fact, my neighbors next door, they're from actual Mexico. Really great people, and they gave me some homemade mezcal, and just like the moonshine, I also have access to. It can be flavored, and they can put different stuff in it, and they did. The stuff was smooth. It was good. Ooh, still had the worm in it too, though. I did not eat the worm. I will not do that again. But this stuff was really good. They also gave me some homemade tequila, which is different. It comes from, I guess, a different plant. I don't know. They were trying to explain it to me, but my Spanish, my Mexican is not that good, so some stuff was lost in the translation. But they are awesome people. I will tell you what, they are such great people. Um, and on my videos too, check it out. They built the fence. I'm building one right next to a privacy fence, but between the 2 yards, we have a full 6 foot tall. It's a door basically, but it's a fence, a gate, so we can go from one yard to the other. Both sides can be locked, from the inside, so you can't just walk through. But they are just such awesome people, and yes, they are here legally. Everything is totally legal. I do have a problem with illegals, not with the people that want to be here or anything, but do it the right way. Oh, you just bought moonshine today? All right. Did you question for you on cable? Years ago they had moonshiners or whatever. They had that whole series and everything, and part of it is down here in Franklin County in Virginia. They had people making the moonshine. Those are the same people I was getting my moonshine from. I know all of them. And matter of fact, flavoring it, me and a buddy of mine, uh, one of their uh, big sellers is called pumpkin pie and apple pie. Yeah, very similar. One has a little bit more cinnamon taste in it, and we made our own, and it was we made it what we called a cherry Oh, there, I'm back. Government, government, government is watching this and cutting me out. But we made what we called a cherry cheesecake. Oh, that stuff. Oh, it tasted just like a cherry cheesecake. Oh, the flavor's so good. We couldn't make enough of it. And that was that. Oh, that was so good. Yeah, dill pick. Yep, I got you. Uh, they used to do that with pineapple, strawberries. Um, my God, watermelon. A lot of fruits. A lot of fruits. But the cherry cheesecake we made, my God, we had vanilla in it. Not vanilla. Yes, we had a little bit of vanilla extract, but same with the pure vanilla sticks. Um, God, I have the recipe written down somewhere, but it was really good. Um, I want to try something close with mead. I'm going to be making mead this fall as well as some beer. Uh, you know, wheat smoothie. And in case you don't know, mead is basically a honey wine. And just straight fermented honey on itself is pretty good. It's not bad, but I want something a little bit thicker, heavier, and more flavorful. So I'm going to make it's based off of a traditional Viking, what they called blood mead, which is basically just cherries in it. Um, but I'm going to add some vanilla to it as well, which they didn't have back in the day, and a couple other spices, and see how that goes. Um, oh, that fruit will kick your ass. Yeah, yeah. You put that in some good moonshine, white lightning, and it's kind of like the worm in tequila. It absorbs all that alcohol, and the sugars in there. It just keeps bringing up the alcohol content. Um, yeah. My wife liked pineapple. She didn't care for moonshine. She don't like the taste of alcohol, but she liked the pineapple one time. She had just, we had the rings out of a can of pineapple that was in there, and she ate a full ring. She was snookered. She was shit faced, And again, too, she don't drink a whole lot, but but she was even surprised that it hit her that hard. And I'm like, sweetheart, you know, we were trying to tell you, don't eat the whole damn thing, because it's gonna mess you up, and it did. And thankfully, she's not wild and crazy or uh, stupid and sloppy, But she was, yeah, she was pretty well toasted, well toasted. But again, Doctor Remy, whereabouts are you from? Yeah, I'm sorry. I poured it wrong. Don't get me wrong. I like a good head, but and a little bit of head, but that was a little too much for the beer. Yeah, that did not work out well. Because you know what? And I meant to say this. Yeah, unfortunately, she does not like the taste of banana. Oh, you currently live in Virginia? Cool. Next question. I'm in the Richmond area, not too far away from the Richmond airport. Um, again, if you don't mind, I mean, well, then again, I'm a truck driver. If you're within 500 miles, you're within driving distance to say hi, but that's not my intent. I'm just wondering, what part of Virginia are you near the? Whew, that originally from Portland via California. This coming. Ooh, all right. Lynch. Oh, Jesus Christ! Yeah, you ain't that far away from me. Being a truck driver, yeah, that's a hop, skip, and a jump. I used to go through Lynchburg on a daily basis. Um, but I was going to say originally from Portland via California. All right, you were on the left coast. You're in Lynchburg. Now, it has been several years, yeah, maybe a decade, since I've actually been in Lynchburg in a regular basis, and I know a lot of things change, but that had that's got to be a cultural shock because I spent time out in California. I spent time, especially in Oregon, Portland. Um, I wouldn't go to Portland nowadays. They would lynch me. Yeah, Lynchburg lynch me. But no, that's the left coast. It's changed so much since I was out there in the '80s, and I don't know when you moved over here to this side of the continent, but just the way things have changed. Um, oh Jesus, Mechanicsville, that's my backyard. I got family that lives there too, wife's family. Yeah, if you live in Mechanicsville, you drive two types of vehicles: either a pickup truck that you need a step ladder to get into, or a Camaro that sits about that high off the ground and has wheels as wide as my shed. Oh, good lord. Yeah, I mean, and again, I'm talking, Jesus, 30 years ago when I was out on the left coast. It wasn't quite so bad as it is nowadays. Uh, and compared to actually the communistic state of Massachusetts at the time, yeah, believe it or not, back in the '80s, California was a little bit more liberal. I mean, a little bit more conservative than friggin' Massachusetts was. It's just nobody paid attention to Massachusetts that much. Oh, the bugs and the humidity. Friggin' humidity. That's it's not as bad as Florida, but it's still I still have trouble with it. I've been down here since Desert Storm was over, and I still have trouble with the humidity. When I was out in California, I was in the high Mojave Desert, so more heat, but a different type of heat. Oh no, I know it's not now. I know it's just yeah, I understand. It's kind of like Nova here, North Virginia. Um, you have the big population centers that basically run that whole uh, that whole state as far as politically goes. Um, yeah, most you get away from the big cities and big population areas, and honest to God, uh, California's not that bad. Unfortunately, um, like here in Virginia, you have small areas that try to dictate what the rest of us have got to put up with. And I just, well, I kind of do get it. It's brainwashing. You know, yeah, well, Southern California is Republican. Yeah, well, those are people that are actually doing shit and working for a living. You know, that's the G the GPD, the gross whatever of California, with all their growing and everything they contribute materialistic wise to the rest of the United States. Yeah, it's those people that are keeping that economy going. The big cities and everything. No, they're just fucking leeches. Pardon my language. Sorry. Unfortunately, though, uh, it's you got one guy doing the work of 10 in Southern California, and then you have 40 people that thinks that one guy owes them a living and needs to take care of all their needs and wants and watch out for their, or be aware of their feelings, you know, and that's really not how life works. I'm sorry, life isn't fair, and it's not supposed to be. It's my sister. I love her to death. And for the longest time, especially growing up, she was the kind of hippie-ish. She grew up. She's 16 years older than me, so she grew up during the 60s. Um, Summer of Love and all that good shit back then. And she was a little bit of a hippie, and which meant a little bit of a socialist and everything until she started having kids, growing up and finding out, hey, the world isn't fair. Not everyone's gonna take care of you. You have to take care of yourself. But that was one of the things that was we got into a conversation, and this has got to be a couple decades ago. And she was into that whole, well, the Republicans and this, they're just evil people, and the United States was evil. Look what they did. This, that, and the other thing. And you were taught that George Washington was a good guy and he never told a lie or anything. And I'm like, Carol, I know I'm a teenager, but even I understand. Look, yeah, the people that settled the United States. Let's think about this. We have a lot in common with Australia because no other self-respecting country at the time wanted the Australians because that was a penal colony. They didn't want them. And the people, the colonists for the American colonies, no, they were the dregs of society. I mean, yeah, you had the leaders there, but other than that, the people that came over here, they were no other self-respecting country wanted us. And it was hard. And yeah, a lot of our leaders weren't nice. They were hard people. They were hard men at the time. They had to be, or else we wouldn't be here. It was a hard, untamed country. They had to be hard men at the time. And that's just recent within the last 200 years. Let's go back to England and Europe. Those people were fucking savages. Seriously. Um, they were savages. Oh, yeah, like I said, yes, she does have kids, and she learned through times, uh, through experience. Uh, she's ex- she's actually scares me sometimes because she's a little bit more far right than even I am. And the pendulum with her, the pendulum went from to wham, but this actually took over 40 years for that to happen. But that's also through life experiences. And one thing, it's an old saying. If you are not, if you are not a liberal in your teens and 20s, that means you don't have a heart. If you are not a conservative from your 20s on, that means you have no brain. To break that down is when you're young, what are you used to? You're used to having your mom and your dad to fall back on, to take care of you, to make sure everything's okay. Irregardless if it's tough love or you're a spoiled brat, either way, you're used to having your parents, your grandparents, whoever's taking care of you. For the most part, in general, there's always the exception. So that's what you expect out of life. You expect something or someone to be there, and you think that's the norm. Then as you get older, you find out nobody really gives a fuck about you. They really don't care if you live, die, are hungry, have a home over your head. You know, they really, you're on your own. You have to make the shit happen yourself. And as at least that's the way it was when I was growing up. As it is now, you have 40-year-olds that are living without a job, without being a productive part of society in their folks' basement or whatever, and they get pissed. When you're 40, your folks are getting up there, almost 70, and they get pissed when their folks tell them, "Hey, you got to move out. We can't afford to take care of you anymore." Justin Hill, how you doing, sir? I've been sitting here babbling with Dr. Remy, who seems to be really cool. He's kept me going on. He's kept me out till 20 past 9 for over 2 hours here, which I've had a good conversation with him. And it's good to see you, sir. And hey, I broke the 500 for subscribers. I have 501, maybe 502, because Dr. Remy said he just, pardon me, just subscribed also, but I haven't checked, to see what the count is. But I was just so happy to make over 500 subscribers, and decided to just come on a Friday night and babble, have imbibe in a. I know you just tuning in, so you missed it. This is not a beer. This identifies as a wheat, barley, and hops smoothie. Oh, well, Dr. Remy, then you understand what I'm saying, and hey, look, to me, again, in the last almost 30 years, the government, the United States government now, is just two sides of the same coin. Um, the only question is, do we want to send this country to hell on a fast plane or a fast train? Take your pick. You know, and I actually do blame my generation for a lot of this too, because my generation, Gen X, just wanted to be left alone to do our own shit, which is great in theory, but that left a lot of the hippie boomers, millennials, Gen Z, and everything alone to play politics and fuck everything up. And you know what I found ironic too? The boomers, for a while here, the boomers and the millennials hated each other, but they had so much in common. You had half the boomers, Vietnam, college, fighting. 2 generations later, they forget to count Generation X, so they always say 1 generation later, but no, they forget about us, which I have no problem with. Leave me alone, ignore me. But 2 generations later, for 20 fucking years, we're over in the Middle East. Pro war, anti war. Baby killers, non baby killers. War crimes. Serving my country. They went through the same shit. They were split in half. You know, they had so much in common, which makes sense too. Uh, I've seen it with a lot of my brothers and sisters. If they're too like, if my sisters were too much like my mom, they didn't get along. My brother's too much like my dad. Well, my dad is different. He was kind of proud of that. He's like, yeah, that's my boy. So I can't really say that, but you know what I'm trying to get across. Um, just like a magnet, the likes repel, the opposites attract. But yeah, you know, Gen X, you know, we were the ones. Grew up, we saw the hard times. Um, not quite as hard as my folks did, which for most Gen X's that would be their grandparents. But we saw our share of hard times. Grew up, a lot of us grew up during the gas crunch, OPEC, and everything. And I remember watching on the nightly news as a kid, you know, what they had every night on the nightly news was called the Misery Index. How bad are things and everything? And it's funny too, because at the time, my father was still working on the railroad, and he's like, look, My mom was freaking out. What are we going to do? This, that, and the other thing. Oh, the world's coming to an end. How are we going to afford this? That? Dad, I remember him telling her. I was right there. He said, "There's nothing wrong with this economy. This is all made up bullshit." She goes, "That's not what we're hearing on the news, and look around." He goes, "Yes, look around." So I work on the railroad. He said, "There's two things I see as well." He says, "I see all these trucks. They're running up and down the highway." He said, "The rail cars are moving." He said, "Our economy is fine." He said, "When you need to start worrying is when the highways are not clogged by big trucks, by semis. When you start to need to worry is when these railroad cars are not moving and carrying products. That's when you start to need to worry." Being a truck driver, that's exactly what I'm seeing right now. I'm not seeing as many trucks on the road as I did just 10 years ago. And Richmond being a transportation hub, I'm not seeing the ships. I'm not seeing CSX rail companies. You know what I'm seeing? I'm seeing a lot. Honest to God, I'm seeing a lot of railroad tracks that are being torn up, disused, disappearing. I'm not seeing the trucks. I'm not sitting there myself, you know, in the traffic jams going, "Goddamn truck. Jesus Christ." I'm not seeing it anymore. Not like I did 10 years ago. So, yeah, now's the time to worry. Something my dad, said, God, 50 years ago. 52 years ago. Yeah, it's it's sad. And again, like I said, I do blame a lot of that on my generation too, because we just wanted to be left alone. Didn't want to get into politics. We got sick of it. A lot of the older Gen X's, myself, I do remember the civil rights movement. Okay, I remember the Vietnam War. Um, I remember everyone, all this political upheaval, and so by the time I got actual old enough, going through high school and everything, I didn't want to deal with that shit. Everyone at that time too, around 1980, everyone was tired of all the bullshit that happened during the 70s, late 60s, mid 70s. This- I'll, I'll actually put it to you this way: around the turning point with Star Wars, around 1977 to 78, everyone was tired of the fucking turmoil and bullshit that had happened 10 years before, from 68 to about 76. And and so we were the young generation then. It was just like, yeah, well, you boomers and everyone, you're all fucked up. Um, and not to mention being groovy. I mean, that was so cliche. Made me cringe, to borrow a new term, at the time, even thinking about it. And so, my generation is just like, no, just stop. Not really interested in politics. Let me go out and be stupid on my own and just leave me the fuck alone. Because I grew up with older parents, not the boomers, but the generation before that actually went through some hell just growing up. I learned to be self sufficient, take care of myself. I learned not to depend on anyone but myself. I also learned that if somebody is depending on me, be there, be dependable. And that was it. Oh, yeah. They want to eliminate our food sources and replace them with fake beef, chicken, etc. Yeah, they're look, just look around. It's getting to the point where the government wants to come in, says, "Hey, no, you can't grow a little garden in your backyard. All right, you can't have a wood stove that's polluting the air too much. Okay, um, where my sister lives in Franklin, Massachusetts, they're taxing the runoff. If you have X amount of square footage on your roof, they're taxing you a water tax. They're taxing rain. You have to pay for rain that hits your roof and runs off. In a lot of places, they won't let you collect rainwater because that's taken away from water that can go into the ground. In other words, yeah, they don't want you to survive. In other words, they don't want you to be able to have heat or cook food, what little food you can have on your own by using wood. You can't collect water. And what water does fall, that you cannot collect, they're going to tax. You're going to pay for it. Yes, exactly. They're not allowing you to grow your own food either. They're going to seize it. Um, and these are just little subtle things that a lot of people aren't paying attention to. Hell, even after, let's think about it, 4 years ago, 2020, out of nowhere, what happens? A new virus shows up. In the first 6 months, even our own government is telling us, hey, don't worry, except for the executive branch is kind of like, hey man, this could be serious. Let's limit travel, from other countries, especially China. And let's do something about this. Could be bad. Oh no, you got everybody else in the government saying, no, it's fine. Go out, breathe on everyone, do this, do that. And then all of a sudden it's kind of like, ooh, this could be bad. People are actually dying. This could be a pandemic. So let's shut everything down. Now you're ordered to stay in your house, to wear certain clothing, protective gear. You can only move about, if it's totally necessary. Uh, all sorts of restrictions. Okay. And at first, it did seem reasonable when they came out with the restrictions. Okay. Sounds reasonable because it's only going to be for a couple weeks, to get everything under control. 2 fucking years later. And what happened? They conditioned a majority of the populace to accept it. Even though you have everything coming out to the contrary, Even nowadays, everyone's ignoring it. They're just going by the sound bites and what was propagated uh, through mainstream media and a lot of the internet. Yeah, people are not going to unite and stop the madness. It's just we're too fat, lazy, and comfortable. I mean, that whole pandemic showed them where the problems were, the people that would stand up and say no, and there wasn't enough of us. It showed them that we're willing to do what they tell us to. Oh, and by the way, Dr. Remy, just because of all this conversation here, again, tinfoil hats going on. Once this is over with, I'm not going to allow this one to be posted. Um, well, I might let it go up for tomorrow, but after that, I'll take it down. I just don't need the bullshit. No, I didn't either. That was my other point. Um, yeah, they were forcing everyone to, you know, take an experimental drug. Now, at first, when they were talking about a vaccine, and immunization, I was like, okay, I understand. There's a little bit of history research too. We had a problem like this back in the early 1920s, influenza pandemic, which did wipe out a whole lot of the segment of this population. It was 1918, I do believe. It was right after World War One, or right around that time. But here's the thing: the drugs, the immunizations were actual immunizations. You get the shot, you ain't got to worry about that strain of flu again. It wasn't just a vaccine. All right, a vaccine takes care of that certain, you know, issue at the time, but you're not totally safe from if it um, mutates. And not only that, it was made from a living strain. Okay, it didn't fuck with your DNA. All right, what makes your body? And they're like, don't worry about it. It turns off. Are you sure? You don't have 10, 15, 20 years of experimenting with it. You don't have the information. So, no, I'm not going to try it. Not only that, but honestly, my doctor, uh, I do have an enlarged heart. And my doctor said, and he took me to the side too, and he said he would deny it. So I'm not going to say his name. But he said, which he told me something that kind of scared me. He said, look, I can't tell you not to take the shot. He said, but with your condition and everything, and with your heart, he said, it's up to you. It's up to you. He said, if I was you, I would take my chances on whether or not I would get sick. He said, look, it might kill you, it might not if you actually get sick. He said, but you have a 50-50 chance that way. Either you're going to get it or you're not. You know, take precautions, wear the mask, do this, that, and the other thing. Do the best you can. That sounded logical to me. He said, but if you take the injection out of the 3 at the time that they were offering, he said, I can't recommend it to you. He said, it went from a 50-50 chance to there's a 70% chance likelihood that it would physically affect me in a negative way. He said, so, given the odds, yeah, it's up to you. It's up to you. He said, and I can't tell you this. He said, I'm not supposed to say this. What I'm supposed to do is encourage you to be immunized, to be vaccinated. He said, but honestly, I can't bring myself to tell you this. Yes, they did. They got the shot, and the reason why he did was in order to keep his license. And he told me that himself. I shouldn't say his license, but his practice. In order to keep his practice. If he had refused, yeah, basically he would have lost his income, his job, his career, his livelihood. That's how political that shit was at the time. But I'll tell you this, he got one. He didn't get three. That much I will say. He didn't get any boosters. He didn't get anything else. And you know what? Knowing him, I'm pretty sure officially he got the shot. Whether he actually did or not, I don't know. That he wouldn't tell me. I mean, I'll tell you what, for years, when I was a mechanic, a lot of my vehicles got a state inspection sticker. But a lot of my vehicles did not go through the state inspection to get the sticker. But on paper and on my windshield, they had the sticker. Make whatever inference you want from that. That's kind of the way I'm leaning with my doctor. He has the paperwork to prove he got the jab. Don't know what's actually in his body. And give me 2 minutes, guys. Well, yeah, there's two of you here. Give me 2 minutes. Because in case you haven't noticed, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of my wheat smoothers, wheat smoothies, and I have to get rid of 4 of them right now. I'll be back in just 2 minutes, please. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. Oh, man. That feels better. I feel a whole lot lighter. Mm. Yeah, exactly. And there was more than one. Um, I know this. My friend Doogie, actually, an in-law of his was a doctor, and she was refusing to go along with the bullshit. She lost her practice, and yeah, was pretty much brought up on charges. And you know what? You know, a lot of people sit here and say, "Well, hey, your doctor should have come straight out and fought it and everything." What good would it do? It would have been buried. Nobody would have listened to him. He wouldn't have made a difference. But as long as he kept his license and he could treat people like me, his patients, and everything, and give them good, real, sound, common sense advice, that way there he was able to save, most likely able, able to save more lives, contribute more than standing up and going, hey, I'm going to be a martyr and have my, voice canceled because I'm making a big stink right now. So um, he did it on the sly, you know. Yes, exactly. Do no harm. Now, if the whole medical industry, or at least a majority of them, had stuck together, it would have been a different story. But they all play the political game as well. And, when the government has you by the balls, either you do as we say or you starve and your family dies because you disappear and you can't do shit. It's not much of a choice. You just sit there, smile, and go, all right, I'll play the game and I'll use your rules against you. Google that song uh, from Mike and the Mechanics, "Silent Running." I can't sing, so but check it out. It's a very pertinent song. Um, I wish I could sing because I love that song too. But check it out sometime. There's a good message in it. And part of it is they say, swear allegiance to the flag, any flag they offer. In other words, just tell them what they want to hear. But in the meantime, kind of like the French underground during World War II, smile, say hi, and then get an underground that goes against them and fucks their day up. Not that I'm advocating that for the U.S. government, for the CIA agents and FBI that might notice this. It's just we're talking songs and movies and stuff. And again, uh, because of a tragic weather-related accident at sea in the Chesapeake Bay that's documented by Captain's log, I have no pew pews left at all. They went overboard, lost them. I am absolutely no threat. Okay. Well, Dr. Remy, I know you're still here. I don't know. I got somebody else watching me too. I don't know. I don't know who they are. It gives me a number. It doesn't tell me who they are. Unless you pop in and say hi, and you know, just in case. Um, Anyone that shows up. I know I starred it before, so it should show up in the comments. But just in case it ain't, here is a link that anyone that pops on, all you have to do is click on this link, and hey, you can enter the studio, pop online, and have a discussion. And holy crap, I got a cramp. Wow, what the hell I just did? I got a friggin' cramp in my thigh. Whew. Mm, Pardon me. Yeah, that hurt for a second. I moved the wrong way. God, I hate getting old. Jesus. God, I didn't know. Oh, there was something else I was gonna mention and start talking on another subject. And part of it was about being old, but since I'm old, it I forgot about it. Dr. Remy, no, you don't have to shut the fuck up. You show up anytime. I appreciate talking to you. You kept me going, man. I do appreciate it. I'd actually like you sometime, when you're feeling courageous, whatever, obstinate, arrogant, whatever, to click on that link and hop up here with me sometime. You're more than welcome. I really enjoyed the conversation. Uh, yeah, but I know it's getting late. So if you want to take off, man, that is cool. I have no problem with that. I really enjoyed talking to you. You have no idea. You have no idea. I really enjoyed it. Um, and yeah, I went off and I babbled a little bit more than what I normally do about subjects that I don't normally touch, but that's a good thing. I enjoyed it. I do that on occasion. You you just you just won't be able to tell because most of the time, like I said, I delete them. But yeah, you take care, man. Go get yourself something to eat. Enjoy yourself, and thank you so much. And yes, since you subscribe, go to my playlist. You'll find everything you need to know that I know about cast iron and a few other things too, man. Thank you so much. You take care. You have a good evening, and I'll sit here and babble to my one other uh, person that's watching me who just type on the keyboard, say hi. I don't know who's out there. Um, but yeah, I figure I got about maybe 10 or 15 minutes before the wife shows up and tells me to go to bed. But anyway, no, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Remy. I really enjoyed this. I really did. You made my night. Thank you so much. But all right. So anyway, again, one of the biggest things here why I started this live stream was simply because I hit over 500 subscribers, which is cool. And on a personal note, that also makes me eligible on my gearhead side here to get to the No Name Nationals. And I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do that or hit the 500 to be eligible to participate in it. this year. And that's got me thinking. I know the wife's going to kill me for this, but I have a nice little 318 or 5.2 liter Mopar Dodge engine sitting in my shed that needs to be put together. It might be interesting to see if I could find something to throw that in, put it together, throw it in. Well, for two reasons. One, I have that 360 I built that needs to go in my truck, but my truck is my daily driver, and it's hard to do that when I rely on it for my transportation. So this is how my mind works. So if I could find a little Dart, Duster, something, build that 318, throw it in, that could kill two birds with one stone. That would be another little daily driver. And I can swap the engine in my truck. And that would also give me something to take up to the No Name Nationals and beat the hell out of it. So that's just the way my mind is working. Oof. I'm going to run that by Kim, Bear Rose Garage, this weekend, Sunday. See what he thinks. See how that works out. Yeah. Like I said, the wife would kill me. Yeah, it's okay. Years ago, I was blown up and killed, so I've been dead before. I got over it then. So it's quite possible I could get over the wife killing me, too. Sounds like a challenge. We'll see how this goes. With that being said, though, the first thing I got to do is finish the pool this weekend and fence, just to keep the wife happy. I don't want her to kill me prematurely. That would be bad. Not a good thing. All right. I know somebody's watching. I know I have one out here, but I'll tell you what, it is getting late. I am way, way past my bedtime. And I've already been on here. God, I've been on here 2 3/4 hours. So I'm going to call this one quits. And y'all have a good evening. And again, I want to thank everyone. I want to thank all my subscribers. Thank you so much for getting me over 500. God, I appreciate that so much. This is awesome. This is a milestone. I don't know how to celebrate it. I don't know what to do for you guys to say thank you. I have no idea, but I certainly do appreciate it. Y'all take care. Have a good weekend. Be safe.